only you knew how the world unfolds for you. Now, calm down and breathe. Ta-da. All right, so it's also the time in the evening where I've invited a special guest of mine. Oh, and we've done this twice now, because this is a monthly, so we've done this twice now, and if you've missed any of these conversations with Lady Basco, you can find it on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Lady Basco. We've had, my brother, who's an actor, poet, and then last month we had a musician, stomp guy, who's now a director. So this month, we have a dear friend of mine. He's Irish. His name is Patrick O'Sullivan. Yeah, you can. Hi, Patrick O'Sullivan. And I'll let him do his thing. Hi, welcome.
The last couple of years I've been dating women in their 20s, just enough of a generation gap where you notice a difference. Like I went on a first date with this girl in her 20s to a Chinese restaurant. She sat down and opened the menu. She's like, oh my God, my screen name in high school was Fried Rice 24. I'm like, oh. My screen name was, we didn't have internet when I was in high school. We had Pearl Jam. My generation invented ecstasy. You're welcome, Coachella. Wanted to tell him.
I want to talk about comedy, because we get a lot of comedians through here. We get everything.
Cool.
We didn't have it tonight, but sometimes we even have air guitar. It's crazy.
Air guitar?
It's insane.
Nice.
But I didn't tonight because I knew I was going to sit down and talk to you, but I always give love to the comedians, because I think it's the hardest job in all of the performing arts. But maybe you disagree with me. Because
no, I agree with you.
Yeah. Because
I used to do poetry too, but I'm not knocking that. It's all hard,
Right.
It's very difficult at times, but very rewarding too when it,
When it pops.
Yeah.
Because I say, when you're a poet, for example, if we're going to compare poetry and comedy,
right.
You're a poet and you do something really deep, and it doesn't really matter if the audience responds, because you're in it and you can just play it off and they all look just like either affected or completely bored, but it doesn't matter because I'm fucking in this shit.
Sure.
But a comedian comes up here and you have to get the laugh. What does that feel like? Obviously,
yeah,
you have to fail a lot.
At first, when you first start doing it, it is terrifying. And then I think more than anything, it becomes a gift, because you put yourself in these situations where you don't get the laugh, and then you're forced to think of something on your feet like that to cover it. And then a lot of times that covering of it becomes this permanent thing, that's part of your act. And it's not something you would have thought of, sitting down with a piece of paper and writing it. It's because you were put on the spot in that exact situation. Oh my God, they didn't laugh at where I thought they were going to laugh, and now this came out of my mouth, and now, it's kind of can be gold. It can also be bad again. But that's just the process,
Right. Okay, so not only are you a comedian, you're also an actor, and you created a show called All About Walkin', which is all walk-in impersonators.
Yeah, Christopher Walken impersonators.
Male, female,
yeah.
Black, white, Asian.
Yeah.
It's fucking hysterical. But also did a one-man show.
Yeah, that's pretty much about my Irish upbringing, relatives,
right?
Things like that.
And you've also been a body double for the man that you look like.
Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt. No, you're
3 people laughed. I convinced everybody else.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
So what is how do you do it? How do you just keep going in this artist life? Because you were a waiter too for many years.
Sure was.
Yeah, many years.
I sold bathroom advertising.
Yes, what were some of your day jobs?
Wow. I used to be a roller skating bear and a DJ at the roller rink at the same time. Catering, bartending, waiting tables. I'm sure there's some really bad ones that I've just blocked out of my mind. I worked at Mel's Diner for 90 minutes. I was like, I'm not carrying 6 plates, guys. I can just carry 1 pizza down the street of Domino's. I'm gonna go work there. And just kind of walked out.
So what makes you keep doing it? So now you're at a place in your career. You're reoccurring on a show, The Neighbors.
Yeah, it's an ABC show for 2 years. It's been really cool.
Yeah, which is awesome. But what makes you keep going when you were working those fucked up jobs, those day jobs? Why keep doing this and going to open mics and not getting laughs and why? Well, I'm not saying that you never got people don't laugh, but but you know what I mean. Like what drives you?
I don't know. I mean, to me, when I committed to doing this, like being a performer, I never thought of like an end game. I was like, this is what I chose to do with my life. I remember when I got out of college, it would like start to depress me every time I saw somebody I went to college with for like theater or film, then give it up so fast. And I mean, other people have different paths in life, but for me personally, it meant like, oh, this is what I chose to do with my life. You know, so I'm gonna like charge forward, and if this door doesn't open, try this one and keep trying, and always create my own stuff. I mean, that's how I got the TV gig, really, from creating my own stuff. I didn't get it in a conventional manner at all. Right. You know, so that's like always kind of my own personal truth, like to just keep creating my own stuff and working on.
So creating your own stuff, you did a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, but that's easy. You just log in and give them an email.
Okay. Okay. What are all the things that you created for yourself to keep you employed as a creative artist?
Yeah, I mean, well, like you said,
a segue into what we're going to show.
I'm trying. Oh yeah, duh. Okay. But that doesn't. I haven't made any money off that. Yeah, one-man show, stand-up comedy. I did a show called Point Break Live for 2 years as well. I was just an actor in that though, and I mean, I'm doing it now again. I'm writing another one-man show, and I'm writing this silly, crazy musical. I'm doing this like parody of this 80s movie that wasn't even that popular, but I like the movie, so I'm gonna do a parody of it and put it on stage. I don't know. You know, it's like things like I always thought of that, you know, if you do what you love, the things will come to you. And that's kind of a lesson you learn over and over. Even when you stray from that, you're like, ah, God, it's because I went for the thing to try to fit in the hole, but it really wasn't. I should have just stayed true to myself, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. Tell us about what you're going to show us.
Oh, this is a documentary that we spent 6 years working on. I was just one of the producers, but it was, you know, we went around the country interviewing people. It's about, I mean, I'm sure some of you people know who this is, some may not. Lenny Bruce, who, and the reason I chose it here tonight is because this is like a community of artists, and as much as he was a comedian, he was even more so probably a figure of freedom of speech in the 60s, and he eventually died of, which most people think is an overdose, but I mean, this was a time when, this is a man who was arrested on stage in arguably the most liberal city in America, San Francisco, you know, for just swearing during his stand-up comedy act. And it really began this fight, kind of him against the government. The government told comedy clubs around the country that if they hired him again, they would take away their cabaret license. So it really did affect his career. But it also set the groundwork for, you talk about all these guys that came after him that are the great comedians like Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Chris Rock, on and on and on. They'll always mention him as an influence. So I chose that because, I mean, freedom of speech, we couldn't do any of this really. We couldn't sing these song lyrics, we couldn't tell these jokes, we couldn't do these poems unless we were able to say, you know, what we wanted to say. So, that's fair, yeah. And if we're talking about real raw art here, yeah, 6 years, and I'm not complaining. It's a documentary, you do it for the love, but I'm just saying, I tell you right now, I have not made a cent off this. So.
As is with a lot of art.
Yeah, but
you do it for the love.
Sure, and it's out there, and it helped me personally kind of come back to a lot of things that I maybe strayed from doing, like that I love doing, by interviewing people that were successful in those things, and then, you know, their influence and their words, like, right?
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is a very shocking comedian, the most shocking comedian of our time, a young man who is skyrocketing to fame, Lenny Bruce. Here he is.
I promise continuity, I'll behave myself.
Lenny set the bar for comedy for everybody.
He opened the door for anybody who ever stands in public and speaks.
But you might be interested in how I became offensive.
It's all different than it was when we started.
When I first got into stand-up comedy, you couldn't have a cleavage or your knees showing.
He took on Catholics, Jews, Protestants, black, he took on everybody.
By the way, are there any niggers here tonight? I think I see one nigger back there between those two spicks and 3 cakes. Thank God for the cakes.
He wasn't just being dirty, he was pointing out the hypocrisy of words.
He obviously knew there were certain buttons he could press that would get a reaction.
Governor Farbus, segregation offend me.
You didn't know for sure what was going to happen on the night you went.
In one of his anecdotes relating to New York policemen... Oh, really?
What I saw in him was a guy who was being relentlessly pursued by bad guys for bad reasons.
The reason I got arrested, I picked on the wrong guy.
We haven't come very far as freedom of speech.
That's where I think the media is entirely irresponsible.
What has happened for our moral values?
Some nappy-headed hose there.
We're in Nuremberg, and they're trying people for comedy crimes.
I don't think things have changed very much. For a different set of reasons, it's the same result, and that's scary.
Lenny, when you watch him, so far ahead of his time, just so far ahead of his time.
People that paid to see Lenny Bruce came and they saw a man starting to crumble.
He became obsessed with the arrest itself. It impacted the very nature of his act, and not always in a positive way.
You feel that this prejudiced the case?
No, I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with the fact that crime is committed.
In a lot of people's minds, self-destructive is the first thing they think of, and then brilliant.